Morning, Bill.
Oh, good morning, Mark. How are you?
I've just thrown you, haven't you? Because normally we do a test 1, 2, 3, but while we've been sitting here chatting, I've been adjusting the volumes and saying, anyway.
All right, you did catch me off
So
guard.
I did catch you off guard because you went to go test. But anyway, good morning.
Good morning again, Mark. It's another podcast, another interesting podcast, but all our podcasts are interesting.
That's what we like to
That's
think.
right. And we've got 2 or 3 lined up also next week, which will be good.
It should be good. So who's today?
Today we're talking to David Cornish, and David is the Director for Professional Development at Marcus Oldham. Now, Marcus Oldham is really interesting. The story of Marcus Oldham, of course, which is an ag college, is worth discussing, and I'm sure David will talk about that. But and I went to a leadership dinner there, or I guess it was a graduation, David, of students that come from around Australia for a week-long leadership program. And one of the things that was pointed out, which I think I knew in the past, was that Marcus Oldham is self-funded. And the work they do is amazing, and I still cannot believe they're self-funded. Anyway, off we go. David, welcome to our podcast.
Welcome, gentlemen. It's great to be here. And you're spot on about that self-funding, Bill. We know about it every day.
We'll touch on that. We'll let that slip away. So, David, primary school. Where did you go to primary school?
I'll give you the 3 because it sort of explains a little bit about myself. My first primary school was Cornish State School in Wellington. I then ended up at Spring Road State School in Melbourne, and also spent a bit of time at the Wando Bridge Primary School, which is no longer there, in Wando Bridge, just near Casterton.
Oh, well, so a bit of rural and city as well.
Yeah, that's been part of my life, is that I've sort of walked across that divide a fair bit in both my personal life. Dad worked for a company called ICI, which I now think calls Orica.
Yep.
And he got a job over in New Zealand, and I was born there, so I'm the only Kiwi in the family that I keep on being reminded of. And then we came back to Melbourne, and then the farming side was on my mum's side. My grandfather then, when he died, Dad retired, and we moved back to Casterton.
And then that was the family farm?
Yep.
And what was on the farm?
Sheep and cattle. It was still going.
Still going,
Yeah,
excellent.
Still going. So this weekend I'm going back to condition score and my sheep and my ewes and work out where the hell how I'm going to feed them, because we had no rain.
Wow.
That's right. And I don't think people or city folk don't realise there are parts of Australia that are in drought.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. Certainly the southwest of Victoria is very dry. And I was just talking to some agronomists today, just this morning. They've come in for another short course we're doing, and they're from Lake Bolac, and they're looking for rain as well. So, yeah, the southwest is unusually dry compared to the rest of Australia. Usually we're the most reliable.
Yeah, it's quite interesting that, isn't it? Because friends of mine interstate say, "Oh, is it raining in Melbourne again?" I said, "It hasn't rained down here for weeks."
That's right.
It's awful. Anyway, so David, where did you then go to high school?
Yeah, so I went to school in Melbourne. I was very fortunate to go to Melbourne Grammar, and I went there and boarded for the last couple of years. And then I headed up to Armidale, New South Wales, went and did a course called Agricultural Economics. Now, here's how much we used to think about our career in those days. I knew I wanted to do something in agriculture. I knew I wasn't a scientist. I hadn't done economics at school, and I thought, oh, that'll do. And Dad reckoned the only reason I went up there anyway was to play rugby and drink booze. He was probably right too, and chase women. But it was a good 4 years, and I learned a lot of people. I actually might have learned something as well.
And a good university. It's got a great reputation.
Particularly in those areas, yeah. So I was we always go by a college when we go to UNE, and I was a Rob College boy. It's something. It was like all university that we all go to. It's still. That's where my network began and still is to this day, because a bit like Marcus, UNE got students from all around Australia. So there's not too many places I can't go in Australia in the country area that I don't know someone who knew someone or did something, went to Rob College.
Mark, the interesting sum up Marcus Oldham, I guess, and this is no surprise. The other night I went to dinner there for their leadership program, and you drive up the driveway and it's up past the old, what was there, Christian College?
Christian College,
yep. Christian College Senior School. And in the lights, because it was dark, all you see are rows of four-wheel drives with large aerials and all those sorts of things. And you thought, yep, this is Marcus Oldham. I've come through the right gate.
Yeah, it's the only place. I think only tertiary place you go, and you'll know where you are by the vehicles in the car yard.
That's right. And talking about uni and school and all the rest of it, what was the first job you ever had outside of the family?
Yeah, that's an interesting. Again, in the good old days, I thought I'd go to an interview with the banks. Had no concept that I'd be working in a bank. But it was good practice, and we had a thing called a formal dinner. So I dressed up for formal dinner. I'd just go in there, have a bit of a chat. And this is in like June, and I go in there. I'm the last guy interviewing, and actually one of my mates was a sort of co-interviewer, and the guy went out and got a packet of cigarettes for the boss, and he lit up while we had a chat. He said, do you want to come and work for the NAB? And I said, oh, listen, love to, but I was the last of the three siblings, and I was going home to look after the farm for 4 months while Dad and Mum finally got overseas and had that trip. And he said, oh, that's all right, we'll hold the job till January, and if you still want the job. Well, anyway, as hard as I tried, I couldn't find another job. In fact, what people forget in those days, it was really hard to get a job in agriculture. We had a high unemployment rate, the jobs weren't there, unlike today, when I would argue that the job market, I've never seen the job market in agriculture as good, as diverse, and having as many opportunities as it's got today. I'd just love to be starting off my career again. I might not be working for the banks, but maybe I would be, because they have changed too.
That's right.
So what was your role at the bank? What did you have to do?
Well, you did these, I'll tell you, we used to do these graduate intakes, and you sort of worked 12 months, and you had to learn the trade. So that means batching, telling, working in ledgers, security, all that type of stuff. And can I tell you, telling, I was hopeless. I couldn't add to save myself. And we used to have these books that you had to write it up. And of course, we used to talk about slicking, which was when it balanced up what was in there. Not once did it balance up. There was pen marks all over it and errors everywhere. So I thought, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to do this job anyway. Luckily, I survived. My best opportunity there was after Easter. So Easter in those days was the longest holiday stretch. And you're sitting there as a telling, and you're waiting for all the money, and then I see this person walk in with this huge briefcase, and I go, oh my God, yes, I get it, and I open it as the Catholic Church. So you imagine what the Catholic Church is.
Coin.
Oh, and this coin, and I just died there in front of everyone, and of course all my mates and that were just, you could hear the sniggers because they knew what was going on.
Yeah, you got set up.
Giggles, I got set up anyway. Yeah. I got through okay on that one.
Well,
is that in the days when if you didn't balance, the teller had to put the money in?
Well, no, I did, thankfully, no, because I don't think I would have gone broke in the first week. No, it was not quite that bad. And, like, it was only about a year or two before me that they actually took the revolver that the bank manager had to have out of the banks, which was a great idea, because my manager at that time, he still remembers having to go for target practice. So he used to go out to one of his farming mates and get a few tin cans and set it up and try and shoot this revolver. But he had no chance of... Anyway, things have changed, thankfully.
Well, remember, Mark, we just interviewed Tim Clark from Bendigo Bank. And in his early days, he was the old State Bank, which is now the Commonwealth, I think, in the corner of Burke and Elizabeth. And there were, what did he say? There were 24 tellers.
Yep.
Well, soon there won't be any tellers in any bank. All right, let's move on.
So the NAB then led you where?
Yeah, and I think really important about NAB gave me some huge opportunities to experience different things. I was an ag economist for the bank at one stage. I then worked in an area of rural advisory, and this is where I first came across what I call the importance of mentorship. I was very lucky to meet a guy called Chris Shearer. And Chris became a bit of a mentor for us young rural guys, and he was trying to change the bank's methodology around how they engage with farmers. He could see that it needed expertise, and he was trying to bring us rural graduates through and give them a career path. And also, as Dad said, he said, oh, Chris taught you how to think. And which is really interesting when you think about it, was that we did a degree, and I would agree, we didn't get taught how to think. we got taught how to remember stuff, and maybe, well, computers were just coming in, but critically thinking was what Chris taught me. And I was able to then take that on into management roles. I came back as a strategic marketing manager, rural manager, went on to Rabobank to do a CEO role, went consulting, ended up at Landmark for a while. So I've done a few jobs, and then went into the ag investment space, which was really interesting, working with a German company. But, it's really interesting looking back on the people who have influenced your work journey and the ones that you look back and say, yeah, I really did learn something there that I probably needed to learn. And one of the things is that we keep on banging on about Marcus Oldham is getting critical learning competencies into our graduates at an earlier age rather than just giving them information.
Well, that's the word competency is interesting because, I've done a lot of recognition of prior learning in industry, and it's all about competencies. It's no good getting, and particularly, say, in apprenticeships. I'm involved with a company at the moment. We just put on a young kid just out of school last year, and I'm a great believer in apprenticeships. And in some way, Marcus Oldham it's not an apprenticeship for farms because they've already done it on the farm, but it's better than any university or anything like that because it's so hands-on and so practical.
We talk about, and especially in postgrad, I tried to, when I rolled into my latest role, which was in charge of the postgraduate, and I tried to sum up what Marcus Oldham was about and how how do we actually judge ourselves whether we've done a good job. And I came down to two words. If what I'm delivering isn't relevant, if it's not engaging and it's not applied, I'm not doing my job. In other words, these students have to be able to, when I walk into there, I'm not just giving them a theoretical model. Hopefully I'm giving them, I talk about the iceberg. There's a whole lot of theory and great scientists, and I love them to death, that work all this stuff out. What I need to do is give them the business management competencies that works on that stuff to actually deliver in either their business or where the careers they're going into. So we talk about trying to get them ready for industry.
I'll just come out of left field for a minute now, and farms and succession. One of my favourite topics, and in fact, the Australian Company Directors ran a breakfast in Geelong recently, and 3 of us were the guest speakers, and our topic was exactly advisory boards for farmers and succession planning for farms. And I don't think I've ever come across a successful succession plan in any live example, but just touching, because Mark and I, this is a really good subject for us and what we practice. What advice you got for farming families about an advisory board?
Okay, so let's go back and just say if you don't follow Bill on LinkedIn, do, because I have one of his posts actually printed up and blown up on my wall about what makes a good succession plan. So highly recommended. And advisory boards is a critical thing. So I was very fortunate. We take our students on tours, so twice a year, and one of those tours was just during the when COVID first hit, and we usually go into JBS works at Bordertown, which is a fantastic visit, great manager. He's well worth a chat. But unfortunately, COVID was just breaking. We were on a farm. We got the phone call, can't make it. Okay, so here I am with a busload of students somewhere in the far western districts of Victoria going, okay, what do we do now? Anyway, so what does a good lecturer do but ask his students, what can we do? And one bloke...
Pub.
Yeah. No, they were good. They said, and one of them said, oh, listen, there's this family just down the road I work for, you might be interested. Now, seriously, at that stage, I didn't care if they just had donkeys and chooks and a grey Ferguson tractor. We were going there. Anyway, if I hadn't written the script about family succession and good business planning, if I'd written it, I couldn't have delivered as well as this. And the guy I'm talking about, and I use him as a guy called Brendan Smart and Smart Farming. And he really tells a story about how Brendan's he's had a coaching background and he's a farming background. He tells a story about when he started off, and in those he didn't start off with much, and he scramble together. And he's obviously a bloody hard worker, does all the job work, but he got to the point where he was losing people. And he said, one day I just woke up, looked at myself in the mirror and said, maybe the problem isn't them, maybe the problem is me. Now, what's that got to do with board advisory? What Brandon was really good at was looking at what good businesses do. And what he could see was the importance of getting external advice, the right advice, and he obviously started off with one person sitting on it, but then structuring the business. And I talk about strategic, tactical and operational decision making. So if we talk about operational is what we call the lunchbox or the toolbox meetings once a week. Tactical is basically rotations, you're running at the business. Strategic is where you get the big players in. Yeah. And fundamentally, I've seen it time and time again, where you get external people to give you that discipline about running this as a business, so important. And he was also said, what he did is he built an office and said, we talk business in here, the house is where we give each other hugs. And he said, I don't want to lose the hug factor in my family, and by doing that I could separate that. So this whole board system really allowed him to create that strategic direction about where the business is going, and then for the management, dealing with the family as well, and all those. We talk about transition rather than succession, because in any board you're talking about transition all the time. It's not a succession. Sort of got this horror story about it. Well, yeah,
should be better. I call it transition.
Yeah.
That's my word for it.
And again, but you think, Bill, tell me about it. And you think about any company that you work in, NAB, Rabobank, any major companies, they're always talking about transition.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's not about then it sort of becomes a part of this is the way we do business, rather than, you're trying to kick me out of here. Yeah. And all that type of stuff.
Okay, let's get back to Marcus.
Sorry, I can talk about succession
no,
planning.
No,
all
it's
the
good.
time.
It's good.
No, we will. We'll don't worry. In a year's time, we'll have another podcast. How does Marcus Oldham add value to the ag community?
Well, before you do that, how did you get to Marcus Oldham?
Oh yeah. Okay. So, and that's a really another interesting curve. Some people work out what they want to do when they're 20. Good luck to them. I sort of worked it out when I was about 52, 53. And how I worked that out was it became an undeniable, this is what I enjoy doing. And one of my mates, because I was doing this ag investment stuff, and one of the who's now principal then said, can you do this unit for us just on ag investment? I said, sure, no problems. And I was doing that for 4 or 5 years, and Libbo, who was the principal at the time, said, do you want a full-time job? I said, nah, I'm not a lecturer. And then it just dawned on me, I actually enjoy this. I actually get something out of this. And, we talk about motivational things, and it was that I actually am adding value to this. And then one day I walked up to him and I said, listen, is that job offer still available? And by the time I drove back home to Buninyong, it was on my mail. And I thought, well, why not? Give it a year, see what happens. And that was 7 years ago. And it's the best move I've ever made. And as my wife says, I've never seen you so happy in a job. Yes, I get frustrated. But
that's great. Great to hear.
Excellent.
That's right. Yeah. So go back to my question.
Your question.
Yeah.
How does Marcus Oldham add value to the ag industry?
Well, I think there's a couple of things I understand about Marcus Oldham is that Marcus is a business college that focuses on agriculture. So we're first and foremost about teaching people the business of agriculture. So again, as I say, we're not into research. We don't do science. What we do is we teach farmers and potential people who are working in the business how to interpret that information and make a business decision. That's how we fit. So it's about those skills around running a good business. And hence the leadership course is about, the people skills. We spend a lot of time at a undergraduate, and I'll tell you why I'm smiling in a minute, undergraduate level about just people skills, not just as much as technical skills. Why I'm laughing is that each year the students sit there in the people lectures and they go, why are we doing this? And without fail, you get them back after 2 or 3 years and they go, gee, we should have listened to more on those people skills time and time again. So we're just building on that. And that's where we see we're putting people out there who are well skilled in business thinking around agriculture. Now, whether that, as I say, 70% of jobs in agriculture are not on farm. So we've got our agribusiness and also we do equine as well, which is an important part. But again, the overarching thing is about the business.
You've got a specialist area for equine, haven't you?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
So
am I right? I recall up the back there's stables and there's lots of horses, and the kids bring all their gear with them.
Absolutely. So they can come there and have horses on campus, and they learn that there's that slightly. The first year there is slightly different to our first year, where there's a bit more hands-on work with horses and things like that. They can then, if they want to, go in and do the second year agribusiness. So we have accelerated degrees, so you can do a degree in 2 years. That's the agribusiness course. The farm one is a 3-year, but that has a second year which is off farm. So what we hope is we bring them in, or they've already had 2 years out, and that's critical. And ladies and gentlemen, if you have children and they're looking at going straight to university, my one strong recommendation is get them out working before they go. Sorry, I've become very strong about that because I've seen the difference.
Well, David, that goes back to that succession thing again, and families in business, or most ag is families in business, you're exactly right. Every family business I go into and work with, where I guess the current crop of family members haven't been anywhere else, I can tell you, poor performance compared to businesses that have had advisory boards, but where the siblings then go out and work somewhere else for 2 or 3 years and get a totally different view in life.
Bill, how about this one too?
Yeah.
What I do with the final year students, I go, okay, who's going home to work? And in the farm, about 3/4 of the hand will go. Oh, that's great. So what's the contract look like? And there's silence. And then I go, who's not going home? And they put their hands on. I said, have you got a contract? And they go, and they all nod, yeah, 100%. I said, so why haven't you got a contract of what your expectations are, what your KPIs, what's your job description?
Exactly.
Again, because if you start that way, my concern is you'll end worse off. And again, if you set this as a professional business to start off with, that's how it will be run.
That's really cool. That's really cool. So going back to right back at the beginning, Marcus Oldham self-funded?
Yes.
So you're no state-fed money?
No, none. And the students play full tilt odds. So 2 things about that. We're very lucky that we've got a lot of scholarships. There's a lot of benefits and a lot of people who are, and we're really grateful to these people who offer scholarships. Secondly, we have to deliver a quality product, because if we don't get paid, and our numbers drop. So 2 issues there is I think it keeps me certainly very honed on ensuring that I'm delivering a quality product. And, when you get we get feedback from our students and we live and die by that student. I got a bit of bad feedback from first term and I've got to lift my game. So I'm working hard to get that up and running, because at the end of the day, that's what puts bums on seats. And so having said that, and it is, as I said, it's about as expensive to go to Geelong Grammar or Melbourne Grammar as such to come to us, is that we're chockers. And in fact, we've got an oversupply of people wanting to come this year. We've got 2 people applying for every position we've got for both courses.
That's fantastic, isn't it?
And we're already getting people going for 2026.
But I'm really surprised there's not the funding there.
Well,
we keep talking, both levels of government talk about the importance of our agricultural section.
But they've got a great foundation also, Mark. That is underpins.
I'll put it another way. Do we actually want it? Because my sister worked in higher education and other areas, in very senior positions, and we call it handcuffs, the ability to actually create a product, the ability to do what we do,
red tape,
and the ability to then it creates you. I wouldn't say addictive, that's the wrong word, but you're fixed to this funding model, which is unsustainable, which is based on overseas students. And these, let's say, take the top 3 universities out of it. The rest are really, really struggling at the moment because of what they've been asked to do.
Yeah,
bit like rural hospitals right now, isn't
Absolutely,
it? Right?
absolutely.
I was on the board of Horsham Hospital for a while, and I read all the issues around funding now. They're just broke. No matter what people say and what the press writes about, a large rural hospital cannot survive unless they're given emergency funding all the time. It's an absolute shame.
It'd be interesting. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, Mark. But on that point, I mean, I would love it to be cheaper and be more opened up to the rest of people that could come. But that comes with caveats. You go, does that lessen the quality of the product that we can offer and allowing us to do what we do? And when other universities have actually been closing down their agriculture for lack of students, we're increasing.
Yeah, that's
so
very
we're doing
good.
something right.
Very good. So to ask an ignorant question, but a question that the non-Victorian and the non-Geelong people would like to know, who was Marcus Oldham?
Yeah. And I'll answer that by saying only 30% of our students actually come from Victoria. Our heartland is actually Queensland, New South Wales. We're getting a significant more people from Western Australia, South Australia and Tasmania. So those sort of bigger agricultural operations, I would say, Northern Territory, cattle operations, Queensland, that's our stuff. Marcus Oldham is an agricultural college based in near Geelong. It was set up based on a trust, a beneficiary from a trust, a will from a guy called Marcus Oldham.
A farmer?
Yes, yeah. And that which gave us a block of land, which I think we've still got 200 hectares of on the outskirts of Geelong. So
Right next to Deakin University.
Yeah,
Yes.
and Etworth, which was
Yes.
Etworth, which was Marcus Oldham land.
Yeah.
So we've got the beauty about that. We've got a land bank. Having said that, being able to do something with it is crazy impossible, and we've got a task force working on that. But yeah, so we just and the beauty of it is this, and what makes Marcus Oldham, and they talk about the Marcus Oldham experience, is the fact that these people come from all around Australia, come from different industries, and the students, you can see the student cohort grow, and this becomes this unbelievable network because they live on campus together, they are in classrooms together. We don't do it like a normal university where you have a lecture theatre where you just walk in, walk out, or don't turn up. It's more like a school setup. You have a class, which is first year agribusiness. You come to that class, you're expected to come to that class. You're there for 6 hours a day, and you do homework. And as I say, it's pretty full on.
Do you do online stuff?
Only at a postgraduate level.
Okay.
And I'm changing that model slightly. Yes, you can do it, but I don't think the actual. And I've done a degree. I actually did a second degree through Deakin here, which was online. It's hard when you're working full time,
And you're not necessarily getting the connections, which is what
So
is
what
a
we're
good
doing
factor
is,
of yours.
again, and Bill was able to experience this at the leadership courses. For instance, the leadership course is part of this, what we call micro-credentialing. So what we're doing is short courses, which, given you do so many hours and given you do an assessment at the time, means you can get credentialed for half, a third of a full postgraduate unit. And we'll be rolling more of those out. In fact, that's what we're doing at the moment. So that I think that fits better with, a farmer, for instance, can go, right, I've got 2 days now. Or I don't want to be this. Can you imagine doing this over when you've got your inventory taken, all this type of stuff, and you're going, God, when am I going to do this? And you've got a family. This is, say, 2 days, bang, job done. That's a quarter of a
Yeah,
year.
David, that's valid because I'm a great believer in short courses, and I've done a number in recent times. And in my 60s, I actually started an online psychology degree at Monash.
Yeah.
But I must admit, I lasted 1.5 years.
Yeah, well, you did better than me.
I
Yeah.
found it impossible. At that time, and with other commitments and working and all, being a sole trader as a consultant, I just ran out of time.
Well, it's interesting that, because if you think about, we talk about the triangle of education, there's teacher to student, then there's peer-to-peer, and then there's student back to teacher. Now, you can do that in a face-to-face, and we become quite, obviously because of our small classrooms, we try and keep them under 40. We get to know them all by their names. They know us. I know some of their parents. I said when I know your grandparents, I'm going to retire because I've been here too long. So all that type of stuff. So that becomes quite a close relationship that we can have serious conversations on a one-to-one basis.
Yeah.
And they have that ability to. Now, we offer online. I will pay more money for face-to-face anytime.
Well done, David. That's been really interesting. Marcus Oldham's website, if people want to find out more.
Yeah, just Google
Marcus Oldham.
Oldham, as in Oldham.
Yep,
Oh, yeah.
Oldham. Yeah, Marcus Oldham. Very good.
It's all up there.
It's all there. So that was great, Bill.
A great story as always, and well done, David, on your career, which is far from over. But I'm more impressed with the product that's coming out of Marcus Oldham.
So well done.
That's a credit to the people who
It
are
is,
lecturing
absolutely.
there. That's it.
Thanks, Bill. I'll tell the lectures that.
Good.
Thank you very much.